Hello, all. I just wanted to reach out. Somebody sent me an email, and I've received emails like this a few times over the years, of course, but someone reached out today, and so I think this is a good time to discuss it, to let me know of, of what their higher self told them, what they realized from their higher self. And in this particular case, it was regarding why I copyright my books. I've had others why I put a price on my books, that sort of thing. And in this case, it was their higher self had told them that it's wrong to copyright a book, and that all books basically, I guess, should be free. And so that's sort of an ideological stance that all books should be free, because the reality is, in this universe, nothing is free. In fact, the universe's entire balance of yin and yang, for every up, there's a down. There's a price for everything that you do in this world, in this universe, in any dimension of it. There's no escaping the price that you pay. Now, we in the, what do you say, in our very comfortable lives are very used to be giving free things. Like, for example, we can use the Google search engine for free. But there's a price you're paying. They own your data. They can spy on you, and they do. You're paying a price that's unseen, that later you may not appreciate the results of. But in any case, there's always a price that you pay. And the first step to being honest is acknowledging that there's always a price you pay. If someone gives you something for free, is there not potentially something else behind it? Like they're trying to get in your good graces. For example, I just gave out book Genesis Code. A book was actually, in my opinion, it's the best book I've written, in that it exposes something that's actually quite difficult to explain, but in a powerful way that helps so many people gain the eyes to see. Now, I gave it out as a sort of a celebration, but there is a price you're paying for it. If you read it, you're paying for it in time, are you not? Of course, you're paying a price. You never get time back. You never get time back. That's the reality. The question is, are you willing to put in the time? Is that time worth the book? Now, so this book is going to no longer be free. It will disappear from access in a number of hours. I believe probably right now about 9 hours, 9.5, 10 hours, maybe something like that. And it will time out. So this is a limited time offer. But the key point is, I spent many hours. I think it was about a year writing it. Most of my day, many hours a day, writing and researching for it. The research for it began maybe 4 years ago, just after writing The Unbound Soul. That's when the writing began, much of the content and research began, and then it was really concentrated in the last year. And so to offer it permanently for free, or to not copyright it, is actually irresponsible, because I have a family to pay for. I have to put food on the table. Nothing is free. And so one of the most toxic ideas that we have that actually hold us back in our awakening path is the idea of free stuff. There's always a price to pay. And if we're going to be honest, we have to acknowledge what that price is. Think about your life. Think about anything you've ever done, anything you've ever been involved with, and really start to consider the price. Sometimes the time is worth far more than the money, because you can't get the time back, but you might be able to make a lot more money. Your time is ticking down every moment. You're walking the green mile from the moment your first atom coalesces into a cell, right? That's an odd way of saying it. Pardon me, I've been fasting for 10 days. You get a little loopy. So I wanted to kind of talk about this idea of free. And Because our nervous system develops understanding the balance of yin and yang, order and chaos, and understanding that actually nothing is free. Now, your psychology may not get that. Your mind may not understand that because you've distorted. You're so far removed from the natural cycle that you don't understand that nothing is free. Every animal gets that nothing is free, not intellectually, biologically. Your body understands it as just as much as any animal does, although your psychology, your mind is confused, maybe confused on that point. If you live your life with this idea of freedom, what it does is it diminishes you. It actually turns you, it weakens you and creates anxiety in the body because because it's so unnatural. The perspective is so unnatural. So if somebody is saying this should be free, that should be free, everything should be, it's a right, it's a right, it's a right, but those things are not actually natural and they don't fit with the balance of yin and yang, it will distort the individuals involved in that thinking, as well as the society that embraces those thoughts. And this isn't capitalism I'm talking about nature. And I'm not just talking about nature out there, I'm talking about the nature of your own body. Everything is a balance of yin and yang. Each cell has to expend energy in order just to digest and to separate nutrient from toxin and to maintain itself. There's a price to be paid. Even if you give it quote unquote free energy, it's still paying a price. But we cannot respect ourselves as individuals. And it creates shadow content. What we will say is inner distortion, psychic debt. If we don't acknowledge and live our lives by this balance. When I went and stayed with the Achuar in the Amazon, they didn't have the idea of free stuff. I've never been around natural people, quote unquote, who had this idea of free stuff. It's a toxin of modern society. It's a distortion as a result of being too separated from nature. Now, going back to the email I received, this person's higher self had told them that nothing should ever be copyrighted. And that's a hint in the sentence. And this is not a statement against the individual. I won't say the name, and I hope this individual understands that I'm actually expressing this from love. I would like to be able to type it in an email, but with the neuropathy issues going on right now, typing is not a very good idea for me. It can be quite painful and maybe damaging. So I'm making this YouTube video to answer her question, because presumably she asked me in all sincerity, but her statement was, you shouldn't copyright things. And why are you copywriting? Because my higher self told me you should never do that. Something along those lines. The first thing I'd like to say is I copyright, and I've also trademarked the total embodiment method, total embodiment meditation, the warrior's meditation, for specific reasons. All you have to do is look back historically to see how teachers' teachings have been distorted. You look at the original Buddhism, it doesn't exist anymore. Each version of Buddhism says this is the original, but it doesn't exist anymore because the original, what we call the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, didn't write his thoughts, didn't write his teachings. And so he left it to his students to convey, and maybe they misunderstood things. And maybe their students, who maybe never even met Siddhartha Gautama, heard things and distorted. It's like a game of telephone. Same thing with Jesus Christ. Most of us who were Christian growing up, whatnot, we think that all the Gospels teach the same thing. But if we look at Matthew, Mark, and Luke, then we look at John, John is a completely different theology. It's a completely different theology, but we tend to miss it because we think we're not looking at the text in an exploratory way. We're looking at in the text in a completely believing way, tend to be, right, if we are believers. So we miss that it's a completely different theology. And then you look at Gnosticism, another derivative of supposedly Jesus' teachings. Still, again, different types of Gnosticism, different theologies, different ideas of what Jesus is, his level of divinity, his relationship to God and humans. Is he a real human being that has a spark of divinity, or is he completely divine in an illusionary body? It's all different. His teachings are different in all of these things. Why is that? Because Jesus didn't write himself. He didn't write, and he didn't copyright it. There wasn't a copyright thing. He had no means of protecting his teachings for posterity. So what we get now, is it really what Siddhartha Gautama taught? Is it really what Jesus taught? Far, far, far chance of that being the case. Maybe there's a little bit in there, maybe. And so it's just taking responsibility to protect posterity of the teachings, that I write my own material, I let nobody speak for me, and I copyright and I trademark those things that need to be protected. This isn't for me. This is for everyone, including me. Now, of course, in the past, I've had people, someone took an entire chapter of the Warrior's Meditation, put it into their book, and then thereafter distorted those teachings. If it wasn't copyrighted, it wouldn't be protected. Some people might read that book and misunderstand entirely. Do some searches on YouTube, you find out other people are teaching the Warrior's Meditation, distorting it entirely. It's always an opportunity for me to contact them and say, hey, look, this is copyrighted. This is trademark material. You're not allowed to use this. That protects everyone from distortions in the teachings. My goal is to be as honest as possible. Without honesty, what value is there? Now this brings back to the question, why would anybody be interested in my teachings? I don't know. This is just an invitation. It's just an invitation. If you find my works helpful, please make use of them. I hope you find them helpful. You might not agree with everything. Some of it you might find super helpful. It's just an invitation and an offer that hopefully will benefit you in some way. Toss out what you don't like, right? It's your life. It's your life quality. And this brings us to the final question. The person seems so sure that what they received, their higher self told them that things shouldn't be copyrighted, that everything should be free. She published it her book to the internet. And that's the first sign that it's probably not the higher self, because I've yet to experience communication with higher self that is a should or a shouldn't. Like, one thing I can see from communication with higher self is it's totally raw, authentic, and so extraordinarily powerful, but it's not a morally judging kind of thing. It doesn't lie. It doesn't lie. And so when it happens, if you've been telling a lie, you, like, in a total embodied way, you're going to understand that you need to correct that lie, not because it's evil, but because the lie separates you from awareness of you, the capital Y-O-U. And that thereby separates you from other people and the universe psychologically, never physically. You can never not be you. You'll always be the capital Y-O-U, even if the psychology, the egoic self, is completely unaware of that. Right? It's important to understand, and maybe it's helpful to understand. Let's change that language. That not everything that speaks to us in a visionary state is the higher self. Within the human body, there's also the trickster. And the trickster, unless the individual has seen through their shadow thoroughly, has transcended so much of the personality, and is extremely simple and authentic, they will be fooled by the trickster. I was fooled by the trickster many, many times. And it can seem as if it is all powerful. It can seem as if it is the higher self. It will seem perfectly so, because you don't yet have the eyes to see through the falseness of it. Shoulds and shouldn'ts, moral judgments, That's your first hint. Something may not be quite right there. Maybe the trickster. And the trickster is really the thing within you deepest down that is terrified of seeing its true nature. It's that. That's what it really is. And it's not necessarily looking for harmony. Oftentimes, it's undermining your path to realization in a way that would fool you completely into believing it is. And what I'm saying to you, I've coached people through this process multiple times who have been, in a sense, kind of possessed by this element because they believed in it so thoroughly. And it's almost always impossible for them to see it at first. And my coaching, my advice is to just start really paying more attention, because that version of the higher self will lead to dysfunction. It will lead to labeling and morally judging, more and more separation, feeling of self-aggrandizing, specialness, that sort of thing. And this isn't a judgment of the individual who experiences this, nor is it a judgment of the person who emailed me. It's another author. This is just maybe that information may be of service to you. You might just kind of store it in the back of your mind, even if initially you feel averse to it, or you feel like it's just bullshit. You might just store it in the back and just start paying attention, because it is awareness that leads to the higher self. So oftentimes we have, so we'll call it a breakthrough experience, where we experience the higher self and quote unquote the higher self. But we still haven't resolved so much of our own shadow. We still haven't seen what is causing our suffering, why our mind behaves the way it behaves, why our eyes look this way or that way, why we bias our attention in this way or that. We haven't seen that stuff, not sufficiently. At that point, there may be some higher self aspect coming through, and there's certainly going to be the trickster who will do all that it can to usurp that, because that higher self aspect is terrifying to the ego. It's terrifying to the trickster, because it's a dissolution of the identity. And oftentimes, our ego will step in, or what we'll call the trickster will step in and distort it. Take the message that's just coming through and turn it into something else. Lickety split. And we believe it. So to move forward, belief is not the answer. Trust. Trust is the answer. Trust that you can see. Trust and persistence and an exploration in and through the body and the environment. Less and less of an identification with, I'm a spiritual person, I'm special. That's all. So this is just an offering. My books, my teachings, they're just an offering. Nothing more. An invitation that might assist you in some way to gravitate towards the true you, or to improve the quality of your life, be less stressful, be more assertive, to live a full spectrum you. That's all. And anybody's willing to, anybody's welcome to reject it at any time. That's totally natural and normal. Take it as far as you want, pause it if you want, go further later, or completely reject it. Burn the books if you want. All that's cool. And with that, before I forget to remind you, there is about 9.5 hours left for that free book offer. Partnered up with 23 other authors. To each offers up their books. I'm not responsible for the books they offer up. I've offered up what I consider to be just an incredible book that it poured my life experience and heart into, called The Genesis Code. And that'll be available for the next 10 hours. So those of you who grab it. And those of you who don't. There is one book on the list that seems maybe difficult to download, or it's not free, or somebody set up their page maybe wrong. Apologies for that. Just if it doesn't work, click back, on the browser and pick another book. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and maybe we'll see you next time. Please subscribe. Maybe hit the notification bell if you'd like to get notified when new videos come up. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.